Welcome to the Stade de l'Aune, the home of the Vendée Globe, and indeed, we're in the beaten heart of the Vendée Globe. We are on the magnificent race pontoon here in Portolona, and you know what that means? It means a dock walk. And of course, we start out with the most beautiful boat in the fleet, quite naturally, not like I'm biased. This is my one. It is MS Amlin, sponsored by the multinational insurance company that is supporting me in this race, and decked out in bleu, blanc, rouge, red, white and blue. It is the most patriotic French boat for the most French Kiwi that exists in the fleet. Indeed, the only one. In front of me, right here on the pontoon, we have Violette d'Orange, who is also one of my top competitors in the Daggerboard fleet. Here there are 40 IMOCA boats, which is the biggest fleet ever. However, far from being the biggest ocean racing fleet ever, because yes, the Whitbread started off with, I don't know, put the number of boats in the comments, but certainly 30 odd boats back in its Corinthian days. But actually the biggest ocean racing fleet in the world is the Mini 6.5. They have 83, 85 boats that every 2 years head off across the Atlantic. And even though this is the 10th anniversary edition of the Vendée Globe, and there's the biggest fleet ever, we're still pretty far away from that. So here we have a pretty good looking chappie, if I say so myself. All of the skippers have the little cutout here so that if we're not on board the boat, people can come and take a selfie. And basically, well, we'll use my one as an example, this is an IMOCA. It's one fleet of boat, so every boat is 18.28 meters long, 60 feet, and then has to fulfill a number of different criteria to be considered an IMOCA. It has to have certain stability requirements, has to have a swing keel, and I'll point out different features as we go. This boat is a Daggerboard boat. It started off life in 2007 for the 2008 edition of the Vendée Globe under the colors of Group Bell. Back when I was still young, I remember walking down this pontoon and seeing this boat decorated as Group Bell, and that was in part one of the reasons why I'm here, because it inspired me with its beauty, with its technology, and I said to myself, wow, one day I want that. I should have been more specific, because I didn't actually want this boat in particular, even though I now love it. What I wanted was the full, full resources, full speed, high technology racing boat. So that's to come for the next time, because I'm already looking towards the future for 2028. Yes, it is exhausting. I'm already planning for the next cycle. However, there are bits and bobs on IMOCAs that we don't see on other boats. These are called the jockey poles, and they serve to widen the sheeting angle on the spinnakers and jennakers that we have. That allows us to flatten the leach, or the back of the sail, and a flatter sail often goes faster on these boats like this, and so that's why you'll see a bunch of poles sticking out the back of the boats as well. However, if we rock on to see my good friend Alain Roy, the little Swiss dude, who is, he's just turned 30, and he is doing his third Vendée Globe. It is absolutely insane. When I was talking about little poles sticking out the side, we've of course got these poles sticking out the side too, because you'll see the majority of the IMOCA fleet has a wing mast. So that's a 27 meter long, well, it looks unstayed, but it doesn't have any spreaders. And basically what we're looking at doing there is much like the jockey poles that provide a wide base to sheet on the spinnakers, these provide a wide base to pull on the shrouds. And so we have a wing mast, no spreaders, and if we were to pull the shrouds directly down to the chain plates on the side of the boat, the angle would be too tight and the loads would be too high. It wouldn't work, but by pushing it out to a wider angle with these deck spreaders, then it all seems to work. This boat here in the last race was Alex Thompson's one, Hugo Boss. The top of it was bright pink, now it's all yellow. And was a boat that was incredibly innovative at its time, because it started off the tendency to completely close off the cockpit. So he's got a bunch of solar panels over the roof, and notably there is no cockpit that is visible. He just chills out there in his pajamas, in his slippers, and the rest of us get sprayed in the face. So Tanguy, the turkey, is one of my also great competitors. In the Daggerboard fleet, say, there are no sticky outy things, there are no foils on this boat. And this also is a 2008 generation boat, which was actually DCNS back in the day. And Tanguy, maybe, is on board the boat. Tanguy, t'es là? Bah, c'est un bonus, on a un autre skipper. Je suis en train de filmer le tour de ponton et du coup, je veux juste demander à toi,
Conrad.
très bien, de m'exprimer comment ça va être avec la bataille entre entre toi et moi.
Ça va être intense, ça va être comme ça. Ça va être génial. Bon, toi, tu connais déjà la route,
Ouais.
mais bon, ça va être super intense. Il y a une vraie bagarre avec les 15 bateaux à dérive.
Ouais.
On a vu sur les courses d'avant déjà.
Ah oui?
Et ouais,
L'histoire de 33 secondes?
ouais,
voilà. Ouais.
Non, mais c'est bien.
Ouais.
On est tous, il n'y a pas voilà, un projet qui domine un autre. Tout le monde a un peu tourné sur des victoires des bateaux sans dérive. Et la bataille, elle va être super intense. Ouais. Je pense autant que ceux qui vont gagner le Vendée Globe. Donc
Bah, voire plus même.
Ouais,
donc peut-être.
On va s'éclater.
On va s'éclater, sans s'éclater nous-mêmes. Et surtout, oui, donc c'est it's a race with two speeds, two generations of the IMOCA fleet, Daggerboards and the foilers. And don't confuse the guys at the back of the fleet, like Tanguy and I, as just going for a cruise.
Yeah.
Tu sais pas comment on fait la croisière?
Non, je sais pas comment.
No. So we are going to be ripping shreds off each other all the way around the world, and it's just the fact that we have older, slower boats. That means they're at the back. Cool. Merci. Bon prépa. We were talking about poles sticking out the back of the boat. This is another example here on Seb Simon's boat. This is the old 11th hour racing that won the ocean race. And these poles here are cameras. And so he's just got a little camera up there that's going to show to what degree the boat is underwater and splashy as it cruises along. Notice this is an incredible example of the fusion between the sectors of ocean racing, because this is the boat that won the ocean race. It was specifically made for cruise sailing, and yet it was sold on after winning that. And this huge big cockpit here, kind of inspired by Hublot now, means that he can also just chill out in his pajamas. This is a boat that I've done a couple of thousand miles of sailing on. It is amazing. It goes so fast, and actually. The boat is so fast that you need to take care of yourself to a much greater degree than we've ever seen before, because the boat did a sudden deceleration. Seb flew inside the boat, smashed his head against a bulkhead, and actually broke his neck. So he's back. He had to wear a crown for a couple of months, but it just shows the stakes when it comes to security. This boat here is another international boat, also based in Lorient, where I live, and that is Kojio's boat. He is rocking this boat for the second time in a row for his third Vendée Globe, and I think his fifth race around the world, so he's started racking them up. I've got a super strong memory of Kojio and I in the 2016 Vendée Globe crossing paths under Spinnaker in the South Atlantic, and thankfully I studied Japanese in school, and so I could manage to extract a few words from my crusty, rusty memory to wish him good luck and continue on the story. But there was this really magic moment of two boats starting off in France, crossing paths in the middle of the South Atlantic. This boat here was initially Patrick Verbeek, the last boat from Jean-Pierre Dick, and then is now Giancarlo Pedotti's boat, also racing this boat in the for the second time. But these two boats, actually, Kojio's and Giancarlo's, have a similar story, because they're here on their second lap in a row, but they've both chopped the bows off, reprofiled them, and put new foils on. And so that's kind of what happens, is that we've all got itchy trigger fingers. We are pretty keen on cutting the boats up, making them faster, and putting new bits on. However, this is a boat from Sam Goodchild, a British sailor, and also another sailor that I've done many thousands of miles of sailing with. We've shared a double-handed class 40, and this is a very, very cool boat. It got 6th in the last Vendée Globe with half of a foil, because it broke its foil along the way. And it was actually this guy's boat, Thomas Orion. And so he has teamed up with Jean and with their sponsor and their campaign that's called Vulnerable to run 2 boats out of the same team, share testing data, share testing sail shapes, and share the same shed. Try saying that 3 times. And so there you can see that this boat here is definitely V2 of this one. This one is a Vendée design, this one is an Antoine Coq Finot-Conque on the left. And while very different, clearly inspired one from the other. And this one here, thankfully, is a hell of a lot faster than this one. So another crazy new boat is, of course, Charles. Charles is skippered by Jeremy Biou, who did, I don't know, is this number 5 for him? At least, yeah, 5 I think. And this is yet another brand new boat this cycle, designed by Saint Manoir, and very different philosophy from the other new boat from Thomas Orion, which has like a profile like a motorboat on its bow, and relatively skinny in the middle, and then it sort of makes a tulip shape, tulipé, we say in French. Whereas this one, much like its skipper, is just kind of grunty, chunky. It's got, doesn't have this sort of hydrated dynamic lift that's created by the shape. It is just huge, big slab of soap. And because it has so much volume in the bow, then the idea is that it will skip up and over the waves instead of piling through them. We talked about the poles at the back of the boat. Here we have the jockey pole like my one, but instead of having cameras like on Seb's boat, he has an ultrasonic wind sensor at the back of the boat. And indeed has 2, and this is something that we'll see as we go along around the boats, is that we have 2 or 3 wind sensors at the top of the rig, but because that gets whipped around as the boat goes over the waves, I think nobody's finished a Vendée Globe with actually those up there working. So we've all got systems that can replace them down on deck, and I choose to have a system that is that I can put in place when I want. These guys put them at the back of the boat, ready to go all the time. Another super cool feature about this boat is the fact that it's got its rudders. All the boats have 2 rudders, and its rudders are like this in angle, and so narrow at the top and then splaying out to the bottom. And the reason that that works is that the rule says that you are not allowed to generate FZ, or vertical force, from a rudder. And this is the loophole, because he's doing it with rudders, plural. And so by changing the angle of attack between the 2 rudders like this, then he can generate lift at the back of the boat. And so this is a modern foiler boat, so he's generating lift at the front of the boat. Now he's generating lift at the back of the boat, and so he can sort of stabilize things a little bit more than the others. Indeed, this is another team that is managing their assets between 2 different boats in the same team. This is Jeremy's old boat, now sailed by Justine Metro, the Swiss sailor. And so he's got V1, V2. There are some components that are shared, some ideas, as this is V1 and that is V2. Rolling on to a really interesting boat, because this is the exact sister ship of my one. So same hull, and our boats were quite innovative back in the day, but that was a long time ago, to be fair. Also put in the water in 2007 for the 2008 Vendée Globe, and is now again on its 2nd lap of the globe with Isa Joschk, with foils that were pretty big 4 years ago and now look pretty small by comparison. But many people have asked me why I haven't done the same amount of work on this boat on mine. Why haven't I installed foils? And simply it comes down to cost and also return on investment. To build the foils is 400,000 euros, just the foils, and then you need to do the Daggerboard or the foil casing, the bearing system, and then the boat is generating more power, and so you need to up-spec the rig, because my rig is quite light and soft and bendy, and would just be frankly scary and probably broken with a pair of foils on board the boat. Then, because the boat is no longer going through the water flat, but going through the water like this, then you change the area of the boat that is impacting the waves, which means you need to change the outside skin, re-densify the foam on the inside of the hull, and then rebuild the boat around that. So, total bill, about $1 million, and it's just not worth it. I would prefer to end up with a boat like this one in the next cycle, but we'll get to there. Johan's boat is just dreamy. And it's also a Blue Blanc Rouge, like my one, so I think it matches. This one here is Seb Marseille's boat. He is a former Volvo Ocean Race sailor. He and I have also done some double-handed racing together in the Figaro class. He's an absolutely spectacular sailor, and when the boat goes slowly, he gets grumpy, which means that the boat goes fast most of the time. So again, this is a 2008 generation Daggerboard boat, and he's going to be one of my key competitors as we go. Good looking chappy there. So, this one here is the ex-Militia. Boris Herman sailed this boat in the 2020 Vendée Globe. He was going to be on the podium until in the Bay of Biscay, just before the finish line, he fell asleep and then ran into a fishing boat. Or at least they didn't see each other. The AIS alarm didn't go off. It's a little uncertain as to what happened exactly. But end result was he sideswiped a fishing boat, broke his foil, broke some components on the rigging, had to slow down, and I think missed the podium. This boat also is notable for the fact that it has a mast. That might not be surprising for most of you. However, 6 weeks ago we did our last warm-up race all together in a race called the Défi Azimut. Unfortunately, one of the shrouds broke and the boat dismasted, which was an absolute nightmare. All of our hearts went out to Romain, and it was just last week that he managed to get a mast back on board this boat, bought from one of the other competitors, and bought from Maxime Soil, actually. It was his spare mast, and I can, as somebody who's dismasted myself, this is obviously very painful, very stressful, certainly just a couple of weeks before the start, and certainly very expensive. So I think he's still doing crowdfunding for that. This boat shares the same foils as MSASF, Isa's boat that we just saw. So there, to sort of save costs in the fleet, there's always a bunch of sort of trade and exchange going on. This is now the new boat. Although funnily, this one is still called Militia 2, and this one I guess is Militia 3. This is the boat that Boris Herman, Will Harris, and Rosie, among others, raced around the world in the fully crewed ocean race. They won the Southern Ocean leg on this boat, which is, it's kind of called the German tech. Boris is German, and it is the biggest, most voluminous, chunky boat that exists in the fleet, and that helps it go super, super fast in really strong conditions. That's because it's the structure of the boat is super, super strong, so Boris can chill out inside the boat, as he's known for, while absolutely hammering it downwind, so no concerns about the structure. And then also because the boat is so big, so voluminous, that it doesn't go through the waves, it actually rides up over the top. So he's got his 3rd generation foils on board the boat, and they've really managed to fill in some of the deficits in the performance and that this boat had, and he's actually going to be one of the quiet favourites to win the race overall. So one of the things also at the back of the boat is a pretty loaded place, is the antennas. So we all are required to have Thales antenna on this one that works on the Iridium satellite network, and then these 2 flat panels here, they're not plancher or he's not going to be grilling up a steak on the back of the boat, and they are Starlink antennas. And so the big one in the middle is the full-fledged marine antenna, which I have as well. And then the one on the right is not an iPad that he left on the deck. It is the tiny backup Starlink antenna. So here, 2 different satellite constellations and 3 different antennas to have ultimate backup. going on now to Guéric Soudet's boat. Guéric is new in the IMOCA world, but he is not new in the world of doing crazy shit. He sailed around, not sail around the world, but sail around the Americas with a chicken on board. So he had Monique, the chicken, to keep him company when he was started solo sailing on his little cruising boat. He has rowed across the Atlantic twice, I think. And yeah, he is completely insane. And coming from a Vendée sailor, that means a lot. This is still in the colors of Alex Thompson, who painted it British Racing Silver, I guess. In 2012, this was his Hugo Boss before he went on to the foiler boat and got onto the podium. So super cool boat. It's a phare design, and it's one of the most successful and highly decorated versions of that design. Moving on to VMB Montbana Mayen, 3 sponsors that share this boat. And this is Maxime Soel's new boat. He was the previous owner and skipper, not owner, but skipper of the boat that I have now. And this is his new baby. It is an absolute beauty. It is a slightly sort of V1.5 version of L'Occitane, which was up here last time, which got 2nd place, debatably first in the last Vendée. And so this is a super cool boat. You can see jockey poles at the back, you can see the wind sensors on the poles up at the back. And if we come to the side, you can see this crazy curved deck. So you can see, like, well, let's come a little bit more this way. These crazy angles and curves and swoops. Is this very sort of beautiful organic boat. And the reason for that is that, do I have anything flat? I don't know. Imagine that this is rigid. And if that's a rigid flat panel, then it's really easy to bend like that. But if you curve something, then it's much harder to bend it. And so the reason that the boat is always in curves is because it makes that panel much more rigid inherently, structurally. And so my boat has flat panels on the deck and then beams underneath it to give it that rigidity. This boat has curvy panels and does away with it. So it means that it's lighter and stronger. And these are, of course, the foils. This is the first one that we can see clearly sticking out the side of the boat. And so the way that works is there are 2 fleets within the IMOCA. There's the Daggerboards like mine and the foilers. And the foilers have these beautiful curving foils that stick out the side of the boat, like this one here. What that does is it helps the boat track through the water, so to go straight. It helps lift the boat up out of the water, and so actually the foil and the keel, which is canted, work together to lift the boat up out of the water. And then also, because it's on the side and lifting, is that it provides righting moment to the boat, which makes the boat a lot stiffer. Stiffer is a way of saying that it can carry more sail, and it is just night and day. To give a little bit of history about that, foils were introduced in the class IMOCA in 2016. And after the 2012 edition of the Vendée Globe, there are a whole bunch of dismastings. And the class IMOCA said, right, okay, well, we're going to put the kibosh on this. We are going to impose a new rule where all of the masts are one design, and we're going to make them super strong. And we're going to come up with this great idea where we limit the overall righting moment of the boat. So smart guys like they were, they said, okay, so the boat heeled at 25 degrees can generate a total of 25 ton-meters of righting moment, and then they made the mast that can take 27 ton-meters, and so right, no more dismastings, fantastic. And then the naval architects went away and scratched their heads and earned their money, and they put foils on the side of the boat, which don't fit within the 25 ton-meter rule, because that rule is static, whereas these generate dynamic righting moment. So as the boats go faster and faster and faster, it makes more and more power, which means that you can cheat on more and more and go faster and faster and faster until the mast breaks. So the mast is now, again, the weak link in the procedure. And so these boats are covered with with load cells and sensors, so that the guys can either ease the sheets or change the sails before they overload the mast and have a problem. And to put that in perspective, my boat can generate 23.5 ton meters of rate and moment, and boats like this can generate 40. So when you ask questions about can I compete with a foiler boat, the answer is sadly no. Moving on. This boat here is Sabi's boat. Here's the Hungarian entry. Again, Daggerboard, 2008 boat. This one was Owen Clark, and was actually Aviva, Di Cafari's boat back in 2008. Nice and yellow back in the day, and now he, as a Hungarian, is sponsored by this principle of New Europe. And actually, why did I say that? The previous La Micheline was the sister ship to this boat. I got confused. But now this is the 2012 initially Daggerboard boat, which was Banque Populaire. That at that time got second by a whisker to the high-flying blonde genius François Gabard. And so this was originally a Daggerboard boat, which was modified to put foils on back in 2016, when it was Jeremy Bayou's Poule Master Chicken Maître Coq. There we go. Moving on to another boat that did the ocean race and now solo sailing, we have Wholesome. This was initially launched as PRB for Kevin, and then the project was passed over to Nicolas Lundin. Again, huge big foils, insane color. I think there are 16 different shades of paint, going from green to dark blue on the back of this boat. And yes, this is an absolute nightmare to manage. And I spoke with the shore crew about this boat, and they measured all of the different stripes as they go from one color to the next. So if they get a scratch, they know which color pot to get out of the container and which bit to touch it up with. We're not going to go too much further down here because Charlie is having an interview, and you do not mess with the comms people. So we'll stay right here where we're safe. But the pink and blue boat is actually a really interesting one because it is Eric Bellion's boat, and it is a new, this one here is a new Daggerboard boat. And I think as you've been hearing as we go along, I've said this is a Daggerboard boat from 2008. All the old boats are Daggerboard boats, except for this one and Jean Le Cam's, which are sister ships built in Persico to a new design. And their concept is to build a cheap new IMOCA with the hope that maybe it can play at the front of the fleet. In reality, it hasn't really proven to be that way because subsequently all of the foilers have accelerated and got even faster. And so they've got a very expensive Daggerboard boat, and we'll see if it works. Fingers crossed, because we actually haven't seen much of Jean Le Cam on the race course, and Eric has been getting up to speed on his one, so we haven't yet seen their full potential. But they kind of scared the bejesus out of me because, in theory, they're a whole lot faster than my boat. At the end is the new Guillaume Verdier boat for Charlie Danin, next to another Guillaume Verdier boat, Maître Coq. Now, of course, this boat, well, this team won the Vendée Globe with Yannick Vestervin in the last race. Winning the Vendée Globe means, I guess, that you get a new boat, and so Yannick is lining up with this new Maître Coq that is a sister ship to 11th Hour Racing. And so again, a boat that was designed for crude sailing, adapted for solo, and I think it's a beauty. It's a really cool boat. Going on to a boat now, this is the Jay, how's life? Come tell us about this boat.
Yeah, we're doing a little video. We're doing a dock tour.
How's it going?
Good, man. So, in 2016, Jay came and worked for me on our horrendously ugly and very slow boat back in the day, and now you're working for an initiative. Tell us about this boat.
This boat is a new boat, so it's built 3 years ago.
Yep.
And it's the architect is Sam Moinar, It's a sister ship of what was Occitan back in the day, but it's been changed a little bit.
Which is now Bureau Valley, so it shares the same hull with Bureau Valley.
Yeah.
And actually Phil Sharp's boat, the Hydrogen Wonder. Yeah. So
the
there
Hydrogen Wonder.
there are 3 that came out of the same mold.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what's special about this one?
I think the most special thing about this boat is it's really it's a 4x4, so it's super easy to find the speed, and I think on the Vendée Globe that's super important.
And you guys, one of your projects for this winter was to build a fancy chair for Sam.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
All right, cool. Yeah, it was cool. It was a very long evolution of different prototypes, but yeah, it's a really nice chair that's formed to her body. The guy actually works with people who are paraplegics and quadriplegics, so it's meant to hold her when she's completely asleep. It's facing backwards. So in case
and why is that important?
Why is that important? Because when you stop at 30 knots, it's a fast deceleration, and so when you're riding backwards, it's really safe, and you also feel safe, so you're able to sleep quite well. And there she has her chart table is facing backwards as well.
Yep.
So, but the seat, the whole thing is on top of a shock absorber.
Yep.
That we adapted from a Zodiac type of shock absorber.
Yeah. I saw that. It's super cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It changes life completely.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm very jealous.
Yeah,
I kind of did something similar on my boat, in a more sort of low-tech, low-budget version.
Yeah.
But tell us about these foils, because they're not sea foils like Alan's boat, even though they kind of look like it when they're sticking out like here. So these are the V2 for you, which shared with Boris. They're the same design as Boris's
Yeah,
ones.
similar, very similar. Yeah,
Okay.
they have a different shaft angle than us. So, but otherwise, pretty much the tip is pretty identical. They're really special foils because they're super polymer. They're well-rounded foils.
Yep. Well, they are indeed well-rounded.
Yeah, well-rounded. So which goes really well with the whole boat, because the boat being a boat that's really easy to find the speed in all different kind of conditions. The foils were kind of designed around that concept as well. So
you've got a scow bow and crazy foils, and the two go really well together.
Exactly. So they're quite tolerant. So you can. Different angles of heel. They're still quite efficient and no cavitation problems, and so it really goes along with the whole theory of the boat, which I think makes our boat super special for that.
Cool.
So Sam is really excited about that portion.
She's never been this well prepared with, and the boat as well. So
she's in a good mindset. So
what do you reckon?
Looking forward. We're hoping top 5.
We're
hoping top 5.
That's achievable.
We've done 5 for the last 4 transats.
Yeah.
So, including a third. So you never know the Vendée, but if everything goes right,
she'll smash it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Excited.
Thanks, dude. We'll keep on rocking on.
Have fun.
All right, get back to work.
It's really cool. So as you can see, I know a bunch of people. Some of them have worked with me, some of them I've worked with them. They share designs for bits and bobs of very different boats, but still they get applied to that. And then another example of that is this here is Pep Hare's boat, the British sailor. This is a 2016 boat which was Bank Populaire. And the last one was Bureau Valley and came third on the podium. And then Pep got the boat, and they put massive foils on it, the same as Wholesome. And so big old foils on a relatively middle-aged boat, I guess. Mine is old, this one's middle-aged, this is new. And now that the foil is such an important component of making the boat fast and of overall performance, you can essentially give new life to an older platform and put a massive turbo on it by changing the foils. He's missing a rudder. This is a boat that I know very well because I sailed it around the world with Nando Afar when it was called the Spirit of Hungary, and in the 2014-15 Barcelona World Race, which sadly is a race that doesn't exist anymore, but it was kind of the same idea as the Vendée Globe, except it was double-handed. So double-handed, non-stop around the world. Only we did have to stop because we had some problems with the keel, and actually stopped in New Zealand, took the boat out of the water, pulled the keel off, fixed the bolts, screwed it back together, and then continued on our merry way. So this was a boat put in the water in 2014 and designed by Nando Afar in one of the last sort of Corinthian efforts of sailor, architect, boat builder that exists in the fleet. And then we've got Biotherm here, Paul Mayer's boat, which also did the ocean race. And we can see Paul here testing his winches. And just have a little squiz inside here. Paul is really tall, and his cockpit is only 1.40 meters tall. So he may finish the race with a hernia, or just look like a 90-year-old granddad at the end of the race, or crouched over like this. He did that because, well, he's really tall, but he wanted the boat to be streamlined and aerodynamic and as light as possible. So this is a pretty simple boat, designed to be simple and lightweight, without some of the complexity that we see on the other boats. But you can see he can only stand up when he's outside of the cockpit. Sorry, Paul. This boat here, Fabrice Amadeo's one, is another Owen Clark design, and actually has quite an interesting story. It started off as the last Ecover boat, I think so. That was Ecover 3 from Mike Golding back in the day in 2008, and then it was Gamesa in 2012, and then it was adapted to have foils on it, and so and then now you can see that the boat has Daggerboards, and so it's gone a sort of full cycle. It started off as a Daggerboard boat with a conventional rig, and then it got dismasted with Ender in 2016. Shipped back to France, got chopped up, new wing mast, put foils on. And then after the last route to run, Fabrice took over the boat, didn't like the small foils that were on board, chopped them out, put in Daggerboards, and now it's gone full circle. So another one of my good competitors in the Daggerboard fleet. And now I think we can, hello Miranda, how are you? Now we come to, hey, definitely one of the favorites in the fleet. If not the absolute favorite is Johan Richomme, who has won basically everything that he's touched. He's won the Route du Rhum twice in the Class 40, he's won the Figaro, and has performed incredibly well with this amazing boat. With his entry into the IMOCA class. And so this boat is a sister ship. They built two different molds, but the boats are identical, as Thomas Orion's Vulnerable. The foils are a little bit different, and certainly the coach roof is different because he is living in Shangri-La inside there. Fully closed off, hermetically sealed. I think they actually have CO2 sensors inside there because they're afraid that he's going to asphyxiate himself. And it's amazing. He's got likewise to what we just heard about Jay, it's got a bouncing suspension chair inside. And you know, we've kind of moved away from the sort of brutalist nature of, oh, I'm going to go get packets of water in the face. In fact, we want to protect the sailor. As we've seen, all of these boats have protected cockpits. So we're keeping them warm, trying to make the boat as ergonomic as possible, and certainly trying to maximize the efficiency of the sleep that is possible as well. Because sometimes the boat is moving so much that it is hard just to sort of pilot a spoon into your mouth to eat your soup, and it is equally hard just to lie down and sleep. So I do literally have a seat belt in the bed to stop me from bouncing out, and more people are putting shock absorbers into the seats. And so Johan has a spectacular setup inside his boat and is the envy of the fleet, I think. Going to another one of my friends in the 2008 category, Daggerboard fleet. This one here is Louis Duke's boat, Lantana 5s, and one of the only boats that's actually facing in, and so we get to see the bowsprit. So all of the boats have a bowsprit, and we all have furling sails, and so it's a good example of how this all works. Some boats, like mine, I guess the majority of the fleet, have two furling drums here, one just behind the other. Here Louis has gone for the kind of more simple system of just having one at the front. And all of our sails furl like a curtain, I guess.
And that means that we get to manage these massive sails up to 360 square meters for our biggest Genica. The code 0 is 160 square meters, if not bigger. And it means that we can control this massive, powerful boat with just one person. And so that's how it works, is that you've got this furling unit here, and so you pull on one side and release the other, and then as that goes, it transfers torque into this cable, which is a specially produced torque cable to send the rotational power from one end to the other. And that means that we get to wind up the sail, and then we release it here first from the tack line. That takes the pressure out of the system, which allows us to disengage the hook that's at the top of the mast, and then drop down the massive sausage of the sail. And so that is this one here from the bowsprit to the top of the mast is a sail that is 28, 29 meters long, weighs 90 kilos perhaps. And so when that starts whipping around, when you're trying to get it down, it is quite the adventure, particularly at night when it's blowing 30 knots. Moving on to another 2016 boat, which was adapted and modernized. We've got these massive, great curbing VPLP foils on Groupe Apicil, which is Damien Seguin's boat. Yeah, really beautiful boat. They've done a lot of work on this. They chopped the bow off to make it flatter, to make the boat ride up over the waves. They built this new coach roof. And this is actually Yannick Bessevin's old boat, which won the Vendée Globe 4 years ago. Probably won't win it this time, but Damien is A great sailor, and B, really modernized the boat with big investments over the last 4 years, and certainly giving himself all the chance he can. What's interesting about Damien is he is a gold medalist in the Paralympics. He only has one hand and actually has a socket on his pedestal winch that allows him to put the stump of his other arm in and still sends the full force of his power into the pedestal, so even without the hand to hang on. Also, what is interesting here is that we actually have 3 satellite communication systems. We have Inmarsat with the Thales antenna. We've got the Iridium, Inmarsat on the right here with the Salem Colman one, and then in the middle Starlink. So Damien clearly wants to be able to maintain contact while he's out at sea, and is putting all of the chance on his side. So he's got 3 different satellite constellation systems that he's able to connect to and communicate with the land. This one here is Jean Le Cam's boat, and so that's the sister ship and the other Daggerboard boat like Eric Bellion's one. Only this way, it is also a bow on, and you can see that we've got these 2 3-to-1 tack lines here. This is how my boat works, and yeah. So by having 2 furling units that can both sit out here, it means that you can hoist, well, A, you have redundancy, because if one system breaks, then you can put all your sails on the other one. 2, you can hoist 2 sails at the same time, which means that it's easier to change between them. And it also means that in doing so is you can peel. So peeling means that you change from one sail to the other without stopping the boat. And it's quite an advanced technique, certainly when you're solo sailing, and certainly when you're switching between 2 massive sails. But it actually means that it's complex, because you need to have 2 sails, 2 halyards, 2 tack lines, 2 sets of sheets on the go all at the same time. But actually the effort required to do so is less. So a bit of an advanced maneuver, but when it works really well, and when it doesn't work, it's really nightmarish. As you can see, this boat here is super chunky. You know, it's been in the gym, it's got some shoulders on it, and so that's a scow design. And so this is modern thinking applied to an older Daggerboard concept. This one here is quite a famous boat. It is one of the fastest foilers of its time. In 2016, it was Alex Thompson's Hugo Boss, the black boat that famously was recorded by the French Navy charging through the Southern Ocean, and that made quite a sensation. And that's the boat that got second place in the Vendée Globe, Alex Thompson's best ever finish, and equal with Alan MacArthur in 2000 for the top non-French sailor. So subsequently it was sailed by 11th Hour Racing, did the ocean race as Guillaume, and then they have continued to modernize the boat as well. Rocking on, because then I've got an interview with a journalist coming up, so I need to keep going. This again, another 2008 Daggerboard boat, highly modified and optimized from what it used to be like. This is now Manu Guidon's boat. Funky cockpit, but again the principle is the same. Keep people dry, safe, warm inside. This is a cool example because we can see the kick-up rudder system. And so I don't have that on my boat, I have a different system. But basically it means that these rudders here have a fuse on them, and as they're charging through the water, if an object hits them, then that will break the fuse rather than breaking the rudder, in principle, and then kick up out of the way. This is not always a great solution, however, because I have sailed on a boat that has kick-up rudders and the fuse was poorly regulated, and I went charging into a cold front, both rudders kicked up, boat capsized, and it got very messy, particularly because it was dinner time, and so we sprayed tomato sauce and spaghetti all through the top of the boat. So anyway, good system in principle. Moving on, we go to Bureau Vallée, which is the same hull shape, although different package with the foils, as the Initiative Cœur boat that we saw with Jay. This one here was L'Occitane in the last Vendée Globe, and it's now Bureau Vallée. Louis got third in the last Vendée Globe with his last boat, and now has upgraded to this boat here. It has massive great foils, which are now illegal, or cannot be replicated at least. They've got grandfathered in. What's remarkable about these, about the Saint Manuel boats, is that the whole deck is completely flat. Remember, we talked about the curving shapes that we saw on V&B Montbana. This one here is completely flat, and just with this tiny little coach roof at the back. And then what's actually funny about this one is that it's got a bump on the back, and that is kind of a get around because the class has become more strict in the way that it regulates the 180-degree test. And so, particularly with a boat that is super flat like that on deck, there was a risk that the boat could go upside down and then vacuum itself to the surface of the water. And so you need to make the boat unstable so that it doesn't stay that way. And so they've had to add foam onto the top of the coach roof to make the boat more buoyant and thus unstable when it's upside down, in the hope that it comes back up. So there are a bunch of boats in the fleet that have got these sort of odd bumps on them all over the place, and that's because they've just sort of quickly patched those on. And then this one here is actually a boat that I've sailed across the Atlantic as well in its previous guise. This was last time Ellen Roy's La Fabrique, and it's now sailed by the Chinese sailor. And no textile cockpit protection. Again, a 2008 generation boat, except this one has also been modified by having foils, although certainly in comparison to those on L'Occitane are pretty small. You can see the tip of the foil sticking out on this side relative to the one on this side, and then the curved shaft, which means that the tip here rotates around and becomes essentially vertical, which means that it works kind of like a daggerboard, but all the way out to the side. But certainly here we can see the massive difference in just a few years of evolution of small foils, big foils. This is the boat that got second with Charlie Dalin when it was called Apivia in the last Vendée Globe. It is now sailed by Clarisse Crémière, who was the wife of Tanguy on the pink boat just behind us. And so they are going to be out there racing against each other, or at least on the start line, because she has got a much faster boat than he does. So don't worry, Clarisse, I'll take care of Tanguy, because I'll probably spend quite a bit of time with him as we go around the world. This also is a sister ship to a V&B, or V&B is a sister ship to this one. It was built after. So again, curved decks, super tight cockpit, nicely protected inside, and again we've got the ultrasonic wind sensors at the back of the boat, ready in case of problems out of top. And then here, we've got some last minute work going on at the back of the boat. Oliver here, the Swiss-German sailor, just signed a new sponsor a couple of weeks ago and has had an increase in his budget, and so he's bringing in new improvements even as we're here in the village. So this is also 2008 Daggerboard boat, and I'm going to be trying to stay in front of this guy as we go around. And then finally, that is, if you've been counting 39 and 40, we get to Antoine Cornig's boat here. This one is quite interesting because it was built in 2005 for Derek Hatfield. So built in Canada to an older Owen Clark design. It is a boat without chines, without the sharp angle at the back and on the side, which all of the other boats have now. So this one is sort of quite, by being an older design, is a lot more graceful. You know, it has nice curves on it. It's actually a pretty looking boat. Yeah, he's done his best to adapt the cockpit. This boat was built back in the day to have a steering wheel, so those cutout bits on the side of the cockpit lodged the steering wheel, and you were meant to take the entire force of the Southern Ocean directly into your face. It's now been changed to have a tiller boat and then have a cockpit that protects himself, and so Antoine, I think, is going to have a great time going all the way around the world on his first Vendée Globe. So there you have it, the entire 40 boat fleet in, well actually there was one missing. Write down in the comments as to who was missing. It starts with Benjamin, I think. Anyway, that is the entire fleet of the Vendée Globe, all assembled, ready to go, and in 3 weeks we are off. So all I ask is that you follow along. This is going to be an amazing story. I'm going to do my very best to bring you the behind the scenes perspectives on what happens in the start, what happens before, and of course what happens once the start gun goes. Now, if you excuse me, I've got an appointment, so I've got places to be. I'll see you later.